Morning, everyone, and welcome to our presentation today on choosing a course and applying to university. My name is Sarah, and I work here at the University of Leicester in the Future Students Office. I'm going to pass it over to Anita, who's going to introduce herself for the session.
Hi, I'm Anita. I'm currently a business management student at University of Leicester, and I'm doing a placement year for the Future Students Office. I'm going to pass over to Dan now.
Hi everybody, thanks very much Anita. My name's Dan and I am a UK Student Recruitment Manager here at the University of Leicester. I'm going to be looking at the question and answer box today, so if you have any questions about choosing the right course and your right university, please do send us any questions. But without any further ado, I'll pass back to Sarah to start the presentation.
Great, thank you, Dan. Right, so let's get stuck in. So to begin with, I'm just going to run through what we're going to cover today. So we're going to go through an overview of the application timeline so that you can know all of your key deadlines and understanding what you need to get sorted and when. We'll also talk about how to begin narrowing down your course choices, because we know there's so many options out there for you, so it can be really difficult to know which option to go for. And then we will go through where to start researching and how to apply to university as well. So thinking about what you can study, there's a huge amount of options out there for you. You've got your standard options that you'll probably expect to see at most universities, and these will tend to cover the choices that you'll be studying at school as well. So you've got some classic subjects like maths, all of the sciences, as well as things that you would expect to see at university like management and law. But you also have some really interesting courses as well that are really, really niche and might fit into something that you're looking to do in the future. Now, some of these are really strange. One university even does David Beckham studies. So if that suits what you're looking to do, then obviously that is an option for you. But these can also really help you if you're looking for a very specific career in the future. So with that in mind, you do then need to decide what you would like to do. And how to choose a course. And on that note, I'm going to pass over to Anita, who's going to talk a little bit about how she decided to choose management at the University of Leicester.
So basically, when I was thinking about what course I wanted to choose, I was trying to think ahead in the future and what career path I wanted to go down. As I was quite unsure what I wanted to pick, I went with business management because it's quite a broad subject. It opens a lot of career pathways. I also checked the modules on different websites to see if they're the same or if they're different, because obviously some courses have the same names, but modules can be different. Another important factor for me is whether there was a placement opportunity available, because I didn't want to just leave uni with a degree. I wanted to have some extra experience as well. So yeah, that were the main points for me. I'll pass back to Sarah.
Thanks, Anita. So there's lots of things to be thinking about, and that is a really good example of where to start, checking the modules of the course and making sure that it really fits what you're looking to do in the future. So thinking about that, we want to cover some of the main things that are really important to look at. So as we mentioned at the beginning, we've got looking at specific modules. Now, the reason this is really important is because university is really different to school or college. We don't follow a curriculum, so we kind of teach whatever we specialise in, really. And that means that at different universities, the courses can be really, really different, even if they have the same name. A great example that I always think of is history. So if you went to study history at one university, that could be medieval history, and at another university that could be everything 1900s onwards. And the only way that you can really find that out is by looking at those specific modules. Now, these modules are all of those little courses that are basically make up your degree, and every university will publish those either in their prospectus or on their website. So it's a really great place to check out and make sure that you understand what you're going to be studying. You also want to be thinking about your career goal. So if you have one, does that suit what you're looking to do in the future? A lot of jobs don't need a specific degree. In fact, 66% of graduate jobs don't need a specific degree. However, if you're looking to be an engineer or a lawyer, then obviously you would need to take the relevant course in order to do that career. Reading the small print as well, there can be some extra costs associated with your course. So maybe you have to go on a field trip, or if you want to do a placement, seeing if that option is available. But what we really encourage you to do is create a long list of courses, then research all of the different universities that offer that course, and just making sure that it is your choice. There's a lot of influences out there for you. You know, maybe your family have always dreamt that you would do a certain degree or go into a certain profession. Maybe your friends are all going to the same university, so you want to join them. Ultimately, you need to make sure that you're happy with your choice. So making sure that it is your choice, that you've done the right amount of research and that you feel comfortable with what you're going to do. As we mentioned at the beginning, and the modules, it is really about looking beyond the title. So don't just go in blind and see that you're doing French and German and think, well, okay, that's obvious what I'm going to be doing. It can really differ from university to university. And that differs in lots of ways. So how long the course is. So your standard undergraduate course or bachelor's course will be 3 years. However, if you are looking to do a placement year or a year abroad, your course will then become 4 years. But also if you're looking to do an embedded master's, so that means a course that you do 4 years for and you get a master's degree at the end of it, that will also be 4 years. And those courses that are 5 years, an example is medicine. So medicine is always a longer course. But also, you know, if you decide to do an embedded master's with a placement or a year or a year abroad, that becomes a 5-year course. You do also want to be thinking about the contact hours. So these can really differ from course to course. Some courses you'll be in university lots more than in other courses, as they will rely more heavily on study at home. Also, the balance of lectures versus seminars. So at universities, we're in the bad habit of using the word lecture for everything. That isn't the same. So a lecture is basically where you sit in a classroom and you are talked at by your lecturer for an hour or 2 hours, depending on what you're studying. Whereas a seminar group is a much smaller class size where you can have a more open discussion, which is probably more similar to what you experience at school or college now. All of the different courses have a different mix or style, so it's really important that you understand that and that you feel comfortable in your learning area as well. Another thing to keep an eye out for is accreditation. So a good example is psychology. You need your course to be accredited by the British Psychological Society in order to qualify in certain careers in the future. So making sure that those accreditations exist if you need them. But also a really great place to research is our research, actually. So, you know, we tend to teach what we enjoy researching and enjoy studying. So you can find all of our research on our website and we'll be able to show you all of the examples of what we like to look into. Aside from that, you might be wanting to think about assessment. So I know that I absolutely hate exams. I love coursework. And so for me, it was important that I took a course that was more coursework heavy because I tend to perform better in that as well. But looking at that balance and seeing if it suits your learning style. But also remembering that at university, you learn in different ways and different things are assessed. So you do also have things like labs, presentations, fieldwork. You might also have to write a dissertation, which is essentially a really long essay or a final year project. And all of these count towards your degree. So, you know, if you're a great presenter, then maybe it's good that you'll have some more presentation time that can count. And on that note, different courses have different weighting. So understanding how much each of these things is worth for your course. We'd also really encourage you to try it for yourself. So lots of universities have taster sessions. Obviously, we're in a strange time and normally we'd love to see you on campus at these taster sessions. But we are going to be running them online as well. They can be days, they can be weeks. There's lots of variations on these as well. But you really get a feel for the course and what you could potentially be studying. You can also talk to potential lecturers as well. So one of our ambassadors used the example recently that the lecturer that they had in their taster session actually ran one of their modules in their final year at university. So you get to meet those people before you even start. And it also provides a window into how teaching at university is conducted, so you can really get a feel for what university life is like. Now, for a lot of you, location is also going to be a really big factor. I can completely relate to this. For me, it was to get as far away as possible from home as I could. For some people, it's about staying close to home and close to family. But thinking about that balance as well, do you want to be in familiar surroundings or new areas? You know, some people will go down the road so that they can move away, but it's still easy for them to get home. And also that balance of rural versus town or city. So do you like being in the countryside or do you like being in a busy city and making sure that suits you as well? You also have the commuting versus living in hall. So do you want to live away from home? And if you do, you know, is commuting a more viable option? All of these sorts of things are things to think about. But the most important thing to remember is that you're going to be living there for more than 3 years. So we always recommend that if you go to a university to have a look around, go to the city as well, or have a look around the local area, because you do need to be happy there. And simple things like, if you like going to the cinema, is there a cinema nearby? These are really important things to be thinking about. We like to mention the average living cost as well. Is it affordable for you? Can you afford to live there? Leicester's lovely and cheap. But if you maybe want to go to London, if you want to do that, just making sure that it is affordable for you. And does your career match the local labour market as well? So especially for those of you that are looking to do placements or maybe stay in the city afterwards, does it match what you're looking to do in the future? And also you might have been there before. So if you have been there before, did it make you feel comfortable? Did you feel at home? All of these sorts of things will give a good indication for you. But it is really important to mention that there is more to university than just studying. So one of the things that is really important to mention is getting involved with other students. So the student body is diverse in every way imaginable. I have friends from Brazil, Germany, all sorts of places from my time at university. And it is a really great way to get stuck in and experience some new things as well. Of course, you get to make new friends as well. And a lot of those will be coming from your shared accommodation, so living with friends, as well as exploring a new city for those of you that are looking to move away. But also you get to meet academics who are really inspiring and innovating and experts in their field. And I really enjoy being taught by people that were experts in their fields. But also, you know, they are positive, they are supportive, and they are rooting for you. So they are there to help you if you ever struggle or you need support whilst you're at university. On the note of academics, we did mention earlier about the research, but it is really important that you can look through this and see our ways of exploring life and its challenges and our new ways of approaching that as well. And maybe this is in your future, maybe you'd really like to be a researcher in the future. We popped here some of the things that we're doing at the moment and some of the things that we have done in the past. So a nice little fact about Leicester is that we founded DNA fingerprinting, which is obviously really cool and exciting. As well as that, we currently have a mission to Mercury called Bepi Colombo. So we actually have a rocket in space at the moment making its way to Mercury. We have done lots of archaeological discoveries, including finding King Richard III in a car park in Leicester, which I'm sure you've probably heard about. We do a lot of researching in antibiotic resistance, as well as a lot of research into urban air quality. And we are one of the top universities in the world for sustainability as well. As well as that, you are gaining lots of life skills and employability skills, which is obviously a big driver for a lot of people who are going to university. Now, employment ranges from lots of different areas. A lot of you will be thinking about employment when you've finished university, but also employment whilst you are at university is really, really important too. So there's lots of part-time jobs available in the city or for the university. A great example is ambassador schemes, where you can basically support students who are looking at coming to university, work on open days, things like that. As well as university organised job fairs for your future career and careers advice too. So I definitely took advantage of this. They basically help you write your CV. They'll do mock interviews for you as well. So there's lots of opportunities to get stuck in there. This careers fair as well allows you to meet and interact with employers. So obviously it's a really great opportunity to make a first impression. And just to make you aware, our employment rate out of university within 6 months is 94.4%, which is nice and high too. On that note as well, alongside your studies, you could do an integrated year in industry like Anita is doing with us. You can also learn a new language if that's something that you're interested in. And when I say learn a new language, I don't just mean ones that you did at school, like French and German. You can do things like Japanese, Mandarin, Korean, all sorts of exciting languages on the side. And we do also run summer school programs which allow you to go to different countries. So if you don't want to take the whole year out, you can take a couple of months out and go and do that over the summer instead. We're going to talk a little bit more about the social life, but on this note, I'd really like to pass over to Anita, as she is a current student, so she can share a little bit more about what she does in her spare time and all the things that you can get stuck into while you're at university.
Hi again. At university, there's endless sports and societies available, and if there's not yet one for you, you can always create your own. At uni, I was part of netball, so we had social nights on a Wednesday where we'd go to the O2 Academy. But if this wasn't for you, there's also sober nights where we'd go out for team meals or have charity events. So one example I can remember is we actually got the basketball team to play the netball girls in a game of netball, so they could get a feel of how we play, and it was just a fun event. As well as this, again, it's an amazing opportunity to meet new people and similar people to you. Leicester specifically also has the O2 Academy, so there's lots of gigs and concerts available. And another thing I remember is during first year there was also a free OB bus to the student union. So on a Wednesday night we wouldn't have to worry about paying for Ubers and figuring out how to get there.
Thanks, Anita. So yeah, that's really important just to mention that if there's something that you can't find, you can create a new society and meet other people like you that really enjoy those sorts of things. And these societies, yes, that you have the standard sports that you would expect to see, but you also have sports that you probably didn't have at school, like American football, ultimate frisbee, all sorts of sports, Quidditch, which is a sport as well that a lot of universities play. And you do also have things like societies which will be similar to your course, so you'll maybe have a business society and things like that. But you'll also find societies that are really random, like a fry society. So basically they went out and got chips all the time and tasted all the chips. So there's lots of different funny things that you can get involved into. But it's a really great way to meet like-minded people. And thinking about the social life, it's not just about the Students' Union and what the university offers, it's also about the city and, if there's good bars, restaurants, good cultural celebrations, things like that too. On that note, we're going to just give you a quick tip on researching university. So this may look a lot, but it is a really handy way to get all of your notes down and think about what you'd like to do in the future. And make sure that you're not sort of losing track of those universities and those courses that you've researched already. So if you have a bit of time, it might be worthwhile getting a nice Excel spreadsheet on the go and getting all of these details in for you to get yourself prepped. Obviously, it doesn't work for everyone. If it's not your style, that's fine, but you can change those notes across the top and those headers to make sure that it suits what you're really looking to do in the future and get all of those details down. With that, we're going to move on to applying to university and how you go about that. So to begin with, we just wanted to talk about UCAS and what UCAS is. So UCAS actually stands for Universities and Colleges Admission Service, and it is the organisation which is responsible for managing applications to higher education courses in the UK. Really important to mention that there is a fee associated with applying through UCAS, so that is £18 for a single application, so that means you're applying to one university and one course, or £24 for multiple applications. So you're either applying to more than one course at one university or you're applying to more than one university. Nice to know that the universities cannot see your other choices. So for example, if you applied to Leicester, we wouldn't know if you'd applied to another university elsewhere. And UCAS do process the application and then universities see it after you've submitted it. We do see it online, so we see it in a similar way as you would do when you're submitting it, but we can't see you during the process, which is reassuring. And then you start receiving your replies through UCAS. So you might have heard of UCAS Track. That's basically where you find out all of your responses to whether you've been successful or unsuccessful with your offers. Just to give you a rough idea of the application process, this is probably where a few of you are now, maybe you're in year 13 or year 12, but just to give you a rough idea of your timeline. For those of you that are here, it's great that you're researching and looking at university options. Your deadline is for Oxbridge, medicine, dentistry or veterinary science is the 15th of October, and for everything else is the 15th of January. Some universities are really quick at responding to your offers, so you might find that you get them earlier than February or March, but that's roughly when you start getting your offers back. And you will either get a conditional offer, which means that you have to meet certain criteria, normally grades, in order to get a place. An unconditional offer, which means that we trust that you're going to do well and that you have a guaranteed offer at the university. A reject, which means unfortunately you wouldn't have got a place, or an interview, which means that basically you have to go to an interview, and that will tend to happen with courses like medicine, nursing, things like that. Then April, May time is when you need to make your decision. So your firm accept is your first choice. Your insurance accept is your second choice, and then you decline all of your other offers. And then in August is the dreaded results day, which is when you get your place confirmed and you might be considering adjustment or clearing, with obviously a view to start university in September, October. Now, thinking about UCAS and how it works, the first thing that you need to do is register to use Apply. So what you do on that system is you add some personal details, and then you'll get a username, which you then create a password and set your security questions. If you're applying through your college or your school, they will have a buzzword which can be provided to you, which basically fills in a bunch of your form for you because it pre-populates a lot of the information that you need. So make sure that you understand if your school or college has that buzzword, and if you need to fill that in. We really want to highlight here that you need to enter your details exactly as they are on your official documents, e.g. your passport or your birth certificate, as it is an official sort of application. And this is the sort of thing that you'll be using with your job, you know, when you go to employers and things like that. There you would have to give your passport, so your degree certificate and all of that information needs to match. After that, you need to log in and complete the sections. You can see all of these on the left-hand side of the image. Read every question carefully, and don't mark it as complete until you've answered everything that you need to. So you can see that it's like every other form that you've probably ever filled out, lots of tick boxes and things like that. If you aren't sure, UCAS has some really helpful apply guides, which you can see on the right hand side in the image as well. They have videos and things like that, which will talk you through all of the process and how to fill in the form. We wanted to highlight some of the most important slides on there. So you've got adding your choices. You can add up to 5 choices. That is your maximum amount of choices that you're allowed to add. And to add your choice, you need to click add choice in the choice summary section, and then select the university, the course, and when you would like to start the course. The one thing we'd really like to highlight here is that some universities have more than one campus. So if you are applying for a university that does have more than one campus, make sure that you're selecting the right location, which you can see on there, the campus code. Make sure that is the right campus code and it fits for what you're looking to do. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the personal statement, and we have a couple of personal statement sessions running this afternoon. So if you're worried about writing that, make sure you join them a little bit later. But you do have the opportunity here to tell the university why you should get the place. It is your only opportunity to persuade us that we should have you at our university. You do have one statement for all of your choices. So if you're applying to multiple courses, it can get slightly tricky because you need to make sure that you are covering all bases. But what we really want to make sure you know here is that UCAS does not have a spell or grammar check. So we really encourage you to write it in Word first and then copy and paste it into UCAS. Word obviously doesn't pick up everything, but if you can get the majority of your errors up and make sure that you're drafting and redrafting so that you're sure, it's a really great place to start. Also, although it's really tempting to get some advice from your friends and copy some sentences that they've popped in, don't do that, as UCAS does have a similarity checker, so it can detect if you've copied someone else's personal statement from the past or one that's been submitted recently. After you've filled in all the boxes, you need to pay and send. Sometimes your school will do this for you, or it will need to go to your referees first. So using that buzzword that I mentioned at the beginning, will then submit it for your school or college to get your references sorted before you pay. So this can look different for different people, but just make sure that before you get to this point, you are happy with everything that you've submitted, because you are agreeing to some declarations and that you agreeing that you're happy with what you're submitting. And then after you've submitted everything, the waiting game begins. So that's when you need to start thinking about what you want, basically just settling, making sure that you feel happy and comfortable in your choices. And this is when UCAS will send your application to your choices as well. And then at that point, basically, we have a look through your application just to see if we can give you an offer. And that will get updated in UCAS Track. So UCAS Track is going to become your best friend. So make sure you keep on checking that and that you understand when you're getting offers and when you're not getting offers, etc. We're coming to the end of the session, but we just wanted to leave you with some really important dates so that you can understand when you need to make sure that you're getting your applications ready. We do want to add the caveat here that your school or your college will have its own internal deadlines. So although these are the strict deadlines which UCAS use and which universities use, make sure you understand the deadlines which your school or college has, because if you don't meet those, they won't be able to get your references ready and submit your application in time. However, these are the key dates for students that are looking to start university in September 2020. And for those of you that are looking to start a little bit later, the dates will be really similar, but just to give you, the 8th of September 2020 is when UCAS begins to accept applications. So they're already accepting applications at this point. So you can have a login now and start filling in your application form if you haven't already. I mentioned at the beginning about those key deadlines. So the 15th of October for Oxbridge, Medicine, Dentistry and Vet Science, and the 15th of January for all other courses. Now there is a thing called UCAS Extra, which basically means if you want to apply later, or if you don't get any of your 5 choices, or if you choose to decline all 5 of your choices and apply later, then that opens on the 25th of February. And then on the 31st of March, that's when we have to, as a university, as a higher education institution, we have to aim to have replies sent to all of the students that applied in January by the 31st of March. If you get a response from all 5 of your choices by the 31st of March, you have to decide your first choice and your second choice by the 5th of May 2021. If you don't hear back from all of your universities by the 31st of March, the deadline for you to apply is slightly later, and you can find all of that on the UCAS website if you are interested in finding that out. Then, as I mentioned earlier about UCAS Extra, that closes on the 4th of July, so you can see that runs a little bit later, and it closes just before clearing opens. And then for all of you that are getting your results in 2021, your results date is the 19th of August. So for a lot of you, that's when you're going to be finding out which university you're going to. The dreaded / exciting day. On that note, we just wanted to leave you with a few helpful links that you might find useful to help you research universities, get some good advice on personal statements and things like that, as well as chat to students. And chatting to students is a really helpful tool because it can really help you talk to another student and really understand their experience and what university is like. So do check that out if you have a bit of time available and you'd like to find out more about a specific course at a specific uni. But with that, I'm going to pass over to Dan to see if there have been any questions during our session.
Thanks very much, Sarah. And thanks as well to Anita for all of your wise words on choosing a course and what you did when choosing a course as well. So we've had a few questions come in. Someone has asked, which I'll probably best to direct it to Sarah actually. What would you say is the most popular course at the university? So I'll pass to Sarah for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll probably be able to predict this answer. It is medicine, because obviously it is a very competitive course. We do have some other courses that are really, really popular as well. So examples like nursing, physiotherapy, but management as well. We have a lot of students on our management course, so they do really vary. Physics and engineering are good examples as well, where we get a lot of applicants. But yeah, medicine is definitely our biggest course, if you were interested in that. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah, for that one. Medicine, always a popular one. I've got a question for Anita, so I'll pass to Anita for this one. But what would you say was your number one thing that you had to bear in mind when you were choosing your course in university?
Yeah, so for me, my number one thing would probably be the entry requirements, because obviously if you don't have the grades to get into the university, you are wasting a choice in an application with that. So you're better off choosing a university that you've got the entry requirements for, and as well specifically to also look at the GCSE grades, because I know some people always forget to look at that and just think it's all dependent on A-level grades.
Thanks very much, Anita. A question for Sarah has come in. Someone said, a bit off topic, but is a gap year a good idea in consideration of COVID, etc.? So maybe Sarah, you could give a bit of an overview on all things gap year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I took a gap year, but obviously it was a different time, so it wasn't the same sort of situation that you guys are in now. What I'd really just encourage you is just to think about what you're going to be doing with that gap year. So obviously traditionally people would have travelled or worked for a year or whatever else, if you think that a gap year is good for you so that you can make a measured approach, that you can give your application the time that it needs. A good example is one of my friends actually took a gap year so that she could apply to medicine, so that she wasn't weighed down by all of her A-levels and all of the work that she was doing with her A-levels, as well as having to take her UCAT and do all of that stuff as well. If you think that taking that gap year really is going to allow you to apply to uni and put that time and consideration in, then take that year. It is worth doing it. And I think, you know, a lot of people worry that it's a waste of a year. I wouldn't say that at all. You are young, you can experience life, you can. It's good to take a measured approach, but you know, if you feel like it's going to be a waste, if you feel that you're not going to be doing anything, then I mean, that's your approach and that's up to you. I worked for a year, so I saved some money. Gap years aren't looked at, you know, in any differently to a main applicant. So we're not going to look at a gap year and be like, oh, they've just sat around for a year doing nothing. So if it suits what you're looking to do, and if you think you can take advantage of some things, like maybe you can volunteer, or you can, one of our ambassadors that we spoke to recently said that she took a year out and she did basically like week-long placements at loads of different places because she didn't know what she wanted to do. So she just sort of went to like a law firm, and then she, you know, shadowed at a doctor's. She did all sorts of things like that. So if that is what you're going to do with that year, and if it's going to help you make the right decision, then I genuinely don't think it is a bad thing at all. Do whatever you want with that, really. That's all I want to say is basically it's your decision. Obviously it closes the COVID situation closes a few more doors. We don't know where we're going to be next September, so it might be a different scenario, but if you are taking the time to be measured and you're comfortable in your decision, then go for that.
Thanks, Sarah. We've had a question about studying business and doing a year abroad whilst studying business. Someone's asked about some of the locations where you can go. For the School of Business, we've got some really good locations in Europe, such as Prague, in Milan, in Italy, Andalusia in Spain, but also we've got some really good partner links in Australia, Canada and the UAE. For real specific questions about that, I would really recommend going on to the live event chat that's taking place later this afternoon, and you'll be able to find out a bit more about the study abroad options, particularly in the School of Business. Someone has asked if you are interested in a year abroad, should you mention that in a personal statement? I'll pass to Sarah to cover that point.
Yeah, so I think that completely depends on your motivation and what you're looking to do. I wouldn't make it a focus of your personal statement at all. Like if it's going to be, it's probably something that you should mention quite briefly. But if it has a purpose behind it, so say for example, you've noticed that you can do X, Y, Z on a year abroad, then that is worth mentioning. But you'll see in our personal statement session, if you're able to join it a little bit later on today, that personal statements are really tricky and you don't want to mention specific universities and specific year abroad options. So you might find that actually it is easier to omit that from your personal statement, because you might have a specific sort of vision of going to a certain country and learning certain modules at a certain university. So it kind of depends on how you tackle that. I mean, I did languages at university, and so a year abroad was compulsory. And so that kind of made it easier because all of my choices were language options, and I could mention that as part of my as part of my personal statement. But I'd really recommend joining that personal statement session, because they'll cover a lot more guidance in terms of making sure that you avoid mentioning specific things and sort of what to cover in that. But if it is something that you're determined about, go for it if you think that it will really benefit your personal statement.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Thanks for covering off that. I did a year abroad as well, had the very best year of my life in Paris and in Spain. We've had another question on the gap year thing. Someone said that they're currently in year 2 of their A-levels and would have applied for university this year. But if they took a gap year, when do you recommend that they apply? Should they apply this year and defer, or should they do it during their gap year? I'll pass back to Sarah for that one.
Thank you. I mean, it's completely up to you. The benefit of taking the gap year is that you have a choice. I would recommend, if you're in year 2 and your A-levels and you're at school or college, I'd recommend doing it this year and applying for a deferred place. or even applying for a place this year and then asking the university if you can defer at a later date. Just be careful if you decide to ask to defer at a later date, because some universities have deadlines. And an example I can think of is at Leicester, we have a deadline, I think it's around May. If you're applying to medicine, you have to let us know before that date if you'd like to defer. But yeah, I would say that you have two choices. You can apply this year for a deferred entry for 2022, or you can apply next year and apply it as a standard applicant. Just remember that you're going to be losing, if you apply on your own, you're going to be losing that support that you get from your school or college. So it depends on how you'd like to approach that, and whether you think that you would need that support this year. But yeah, that's the nice thing about a gap year. You've got the opportunity to apply either year, dependent on what suits you better.
Thanks, Sarah. We've had a question. Someone currently has 6 universities in mind. How do I decide which final one to apply to? Should I base it on entry grades or location? I'll pass back to Sarah with some final advice on that.
Yeah, no problem. I might pass this over to Anita as well to see how she's done afterwards. But I think, you know, this is where the challenge really sets in. I definitely had this, and I think I had about 7 unis that I wanted to apply to, and I didn't really know how to narrow them down. For me, a lot of my decision making was based around entry requirements, as Anita said at the beginning. So, you know, I kind of was tactical. I applied to 2 universities that were kind of slightly higher than what I was predicted. I applied to 2 universities that were the same as what I was predicted, and then I applied to 1 university that was lower than what I was predicted, to make sure that I basically had a place that I wanted, and then I could apply through clearing later if I decided to. I think it is really, really difficult to do that, and I think you kind of just need to bite the bullet and just go for it and go with what you're comfortable in. Ultimately, you're going to have to narrow those 5 choices down to 2. So although you might have 6 in mind right now, it's probably a good place to start thinking about, well, actually, if I got offers back from these 5, all 5 of them, where would I be going in terms of my 2 choices, and what decisions would I be making with that? So it might be a nice place for you to start in terms of that sort of process and making sure that you narrow that down. But I think it's just bearing in mind what's the most important factors for you. So if location is more important to you than grades, then make sure you're applying to your 5 unis that have better location. If you know, the modules are more important to you than the location, then make sure that the modules suit what you're looking to do. And if that helps you narrow it down, then that's perfect. But it's all about you and your decision making. On that, I'm going to pass over to Anita to just sort of see, you know, if you had any difficulty narrowing that list down to, even if it wasn't the 5, you know, narrowing down to that 2.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, obviously, you've got so many different choices there. It's going to be hard to narrow it down to your specific 5 or 6. I just want to reiterate what Sarah said. You definitely want to pick 2 of like a stronger uni that you think you'd be able to push yourself to get into, and then also a 2 that you think maybe with slightly lower entry requirements, so you know you've got a balance of both in case something goes wrong, or if you do better than you expected. As well as this, I think you shouldn't as well just limit to look at one factor like entry requirements or just specifically locations. You want to look at the university as a whole, and don't feel like you're limited that if the university's closed and you can't visit for an open day, like we still have virtual tours available. You can always get the bus or the train down to the city and have a look around and see if it suits you. So yeah, just try not to limit yourself on just one important factor, because you want to look at the whole, look at it as a whole.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for answering that question. That's about it for questions today. A huge thanks to Sarah and Anita for providing some really great insight into applying to university and choosing the right course. If you have any further questions and you want to ask any more, please do use them in the live chat over the course of today's main event. You can always email us at study@le.ac.uk, or you can always chat to one of our students or staff at le.ac.uk/chat. I'll hand over to Sarah, who's going to wrap things up now and kind of make a final few thoughts. But have a great rest of the day, and good luck in your university applications.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, so we just wanted to round off by just sort of reminding you that it is really important that it is your choice. So make sure that you're doing that research, that you're comfortable. If you're stuck narrowing it down, get stuck in, get exploring, and find out everything that you need to know about the uni. And I'd really like to just round off by reiterating what Anita said. Just because we're in a tough situation right now, and open days are virtual. Obviously, this is what today is. It doesn't stop you from getting on a train and going to visit a city. You're still allowed to travel around the UK. You're still allowed to have a look round. So, if you want to go with your friends to a city and have a look round, explore the city, and go outside the buildings and just get a feel for the campus, don't be put off by doing that. I think it's a really great opportunity to take advantage of. On that note, we just want to say I hope you enjoy the rest of the main event. Get stuck in with all the presentations and all the live chats, and explore around the uni. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Bye.